I left law enforcement about 2 years prior to me actually leaving. I started an ATM machine business. Starting that ATM business definitely gave me a safety net for when I was deciding to leave law enforcement. And it wasn't necessarily about like the finances coming in. It was the fact that I actually created a business, got customers, made sales, and I was actually bringing in revenue. That is what helped to finally make that jump out of law enforcement.
If you were to do 4 to 5K and devote that time in overtime, which I call
Exactly.
blood money, dude,
Blood money.
you know, you're working 30, an additional 40 hours a week to make the same amount of money you would from those machines, which only take a couple of hours to fill, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that's passive income right there.
What led you to transition to merchant services, which is credit card machines? Guys, welcome back to the Level Up Podcast. This is Paul Alex, and today we have another phenomenal interview. We have a first responder. We have a military veteran. He was an Army Ranger. Thank you for your service. And he's an overall good guy, family guy. He is what we consider a side hustler when it comes to on the entrepreneurship world, but he also took a deep dive into AI automation, which we're going to take a deep dive into. Guys, as you guys know, AI has dominated the space in the past couple of years, and it's going to continue to grow. I mean, if you guys are looking at the current news trend right now with layoffs, 40,000 from UPS, 30,000 from Amazon. I mean, it's just the way the world is going. So this interview is going to be very good because we're going to talk about exactly how Nick Ford has been able to use AI and automate it for businesses in the United States. And also he's going to be talking about his background in law enforcement. He's going to be talking about his experiences on how he started in his entrepreneurship journey. Nick, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here, man.
No, absolutely, man. So Nick, you started off as a in the military. When did you transition from the military into law enforcement?
So there was actually quite the gap between military and law enforcement. So I got out of active duty military in 2007 and I entered law enforcement in 2012. But in Massachusetts back then, everybody wanted to be a police officer, right? So I had to take the civil service exam twice, and it's only given every 2 years. And there were like thousands of people that took it, right? I scored a 99. I had veterans preference. Didn't even get a call the first time. So in the interim, I got into technology and started working kind of like entry level IT jobs, kind of biding my time until I finally got the postcard in the mail inviting me to interview for a police department in 2017. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
man. I mean,
2012. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I remember that time. I was around 2012, 2011. I started submitting my applications to different departments there in California. And it was a process, dude. I remember going to physical agility tests where there was like 1,500 people.
Oh
And this
man.
was for a department where they had 800 officers. So to me, I was just like, there's no way I'm going to get
Right.
picked out of all these people, right? And it was at that time, especially in California, man, where it was one of the first departments that was offering over $100,000 back in 2014
Wow. That's
to get
huge.
paid as a police officer. Yeah, which is huge, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of people
Yeah.
don't think that police officers can make that much money, but you can, right?
Oh
Especially with
yeah.
overtime and all that jazz.
Mhm.
So, with your background, brother, you got into law enforcement. How long were you in law enforcement for?
So I was in law enforcement from 2012 2017, so 5 years.
So 5 years. And then during those 5 years, did you work any like specialized units? What is basically I like to say your hero sheet when it comes to the law enforcement career?
Hero sheet. I wouldn't say specialized units. I was an FTO, which I enjoyed. I taught some classes at the academy, so like first responder, trauma management, things of that nature. Narcan instructor, kind of one-off trainings that I went to, but really the biggest thing that I did while I was there was FTO.
FTO, yeah. And I feel like it takes a special person to be a field training officer, man. You got to really want to prep, the new guys and gals going into law enforcement because it all comes down to, their level of mindset, their confidence, especially being the police, right?
Right, right, and I mean it adds. it adds that context and color that I think you can only get so much of in the police academy, right? And you get out of the police academy, you get into the department, and to me, that's really where the rubber meets the road, and you can have, because there are good FTOs and there are not so good FTOs, unfortunately. And I think that can really make or break a young officer's career and outlook on the job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for the people that are listening right now, and let's say they're interested in going into law enforcement, what would be your top three tips to give somebody that's new, like inspiring a cadet that is going through the process? What would you tell them?
So the very first thing that I would tell them is explore the reason why you want to be a police officer. I think that is by far the biggest component that can determine success or failure. Is the why, right? If you just like anything else, right? If you're getting into it for the wrong reasons, it, the half life on that is going to be pretty short. So make sure you're getting it for the right reasons. Number one. Number two, I would say regardless of what anybody tells you, whether it's the media or somebody, like myself who tries to coach people to leave law enforcement when they're ready to, I tell people go for it. Don't get involved in the drama. Like once you get to the department, you go through the academy and everything else. Like obviously prepare for the academy, take it seriously. When you go for an interview, show up in a suit. Like there are people still that don't show up in suits, and it just like blows my mind. But anyway, so you go through the academy, get to the apartment. Number three, the third tip, right, and I think is one of the biggest is when you get to the department, try not to get involved in the drama. Try not to get involved in the talking behind people's backs. Everybody's going to have an opinion about different officers. Take it with a grain of salt. Form your own opinions. And, dude, enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. Get out there and enjoy the ride and do the job and take every day, you know, one day at a time. And there are plenty of people out there that serve 20, 30, 40, even 50 years in law enforcement and love every single day of it. And if you're going down that path, I hope that's you.
It's a great career, man, and it's very refreshing to talk to someone that's also in the same industry as me, that I did for 7 years. And to me, dude, I think it's great. There's nothing wrong with going ahead and trying to be the police in 2025. The one thing is just being prepared mentally for it, just because now more than ever, especially with cameras, PDRDs, right?
Hmm.
Now you're just dealing with more scrutiny, but at the end of the day, that's just what comes with it, dude.
Right.
I always say it's a customer service based job, and
It
that's what you're
is.
doing. You are providing customer service to the citizens and to the suspects, right?
Yep. To everybody, and it's if you're doing it for the right reasons, usually you won't have the problem. But like, yeah, there's plenty of components of law enforcement that can be very ugly, right? Like nobody ever calls the police because something good's going on. It's always a crisis. It's always a problem. It's always a fight. It's always a disagreement, whatever the case may be. And you're brought in as like this impartial person to try to mediate. And from one call, that was the part that I love about the job the most is the dynamics. You never know what one day, what 1 hour, what 1 minute is going to bring from one to the next.
Let's go ahead and transition from when you were in law enforcement now to actual entrepreneurship. So, what was your first entrepreneurial venture, and then why did you decide to go ahead and start transitioning?
So yeah, my first venture was I started an ATM machine business. I did that like about 2 years prior to me actually leaving, and I did it because it always kind of just interested me, the thought of starting a business. And one night, I worked midnights for 3 straight years, and if you've ever worked midnights, which I'm sure you have, you think about a lot of random things. So one of the things I was thinking about was how ATM machines work, and I'm like, I wonder how they work. I wonder who, where does that surcharge go? Like, who does that go to? A bank? Does it go to a person? Does it go to the building? So I kind of looked into it that way and really kind of went back and did a deep dive on the business model, right? And figured out that okay, there's definitely money to be made here, and the sort of competitive advantage that I applied to the ATM to my ATM company was that it's a veteran-owned business. A portion of the surcharge amount collected automatically gets donated to a veteran charity, and those were like the two things because there's tons of ATM machine companies out there, just like merchant services companies, right? They're all over the place. So finding that competitive advantage, that differentiator, was pretty good for me. And then as a result, I targeted things like VFWs, things like American Legions, like veteran-oriented social establishments, because I have that instant credibility walking through the door as a veteran. They like instantly kind of will at least listen to what you have to say, right? So I started that. And by the way, I've never really scaled any of these companies like big. Not, I wouldn't even say that I scaled them to a medium size. These have always been side hustles, more of like an enjoyment exploration type deal. However, starting that ATM business, right, definitely gave me a safety net for when I was deciding to leave law enforcement, when I was going back and forth, should I do it? Should I not? It gave me that, and it wasn't necessarily about like the finances coming in, because even the finances coming in from the ATM machine business like wasn't much. It was between that and and merchant services, it was like, I don't know, maybe 3-4 grand a month, something along those lines, right? Which like is nothing to like snark at, but compared to like a full-time police officer salary, it's like I couldn't leave policing and continue that part-time. My point is that it wasn't the income that gave me that added boost of confidence. It was the fact that I actually created a business, that I actually got customers, that I actually made sales, and that I was actually bringing in revenue. That is what helped give me the confidence to finally make that jump out of law enforcement, because I knew if I could do this, I could do it again, or I could go to this and scale it and put full time. I like to say I put part time effort into something, I'm going to get part time results, and that's okay. But I also know that I have that skill set now. So if I want to apply full time effort to something, I'm going to get full time results. So really, that's kind of how I was led into entrepreneurship and then the ATM machine business, and then that just so happened to give me that extra confident boost to actually pull the trigger and leave law enforcement.
Dude, I love that because it goes back to reframing your mind to knowing what you're capable of doing. And very similar story like yours. When I jumped in ATMs, I was in an environment, and as you know, law enforcement, because you chimed in on this, sometimes law enforcement, it can be dramatic, dude. It's almost like
Little bit.
high school, right?
Oh my goodness,
just,
yeah.
just a little bit. It's almost like high school, dude.
Right.
People are talking. Let's say if you were to bring it up to a coworker, or your buddy that you're in the squad car with, and all of a sudden they're like, ATMs, what type of scam are you trying to do, right? They're
Right,
so
right.
negative
Yeah.
about it, brother.
Yeah. Oh,
did
you're
you
running
did
the
you
pyramid scheme. I'm like, what? Do you even know what a pyramid scheme
exactly.
is? Because that's not what it is.
Exactly. That is the first thing that someone who is comfortable will say, right? Because
Oh
they're
yeah.
just not used to thinking outside the box.
Right. Right.
So when you went ahead and you actually launched that business, did you tell your wife? Did you tell your coworkers? Were you open about it, or was this something that you were just building on the side as you were still working as a law enforcement officer?
Yeah. So it is something that I was very open about and that I was very transparent about, and that's kind of just how I do things in general. Like I think there's something to be said about stealth wealth and building things in the dark, without letting anybody know about it. I've really wrestled with like which one should I do, but in that case, I was very vocal about it because the law enforcement community is as dramatic as it can be and as spiteful as it can be. It's still a community. It's still a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and a lot of my coworkers, actually, a handful of my coworkers, like actually landed me customers, from letting them know, because I get that credibility from, I mean, your net worth is your network, right? And it's like, so yeah, I'm very, very open. I talked about it, with my wife. She's like, whatever you want to do, man. Well, sounds good. But yeah, I told everybody about it.
I love that. I love that. And the fact that your wife was very supportive about it, that's huge, dude.
Oh
I
yeah.
think one of the biggest needle movers for any entrepreneur, if you guys are listening to this right now and you guys are thinking of creating a side hustle just like Nick did, just like I did, it is very important to find your people that are going to support you through that journey, right? Because it's not easy, dude. It's something
No.
new. You may not be good at it, but you start getting good at it, just like the reps, just like academy, just like field training officer, right? So, Nick, let's talk about the transition now with ATM. So you're able to do 4 to 5K a month, which is still great, dude. Because
Mhm.
the way I look at it, if you were to do 4 to 5K and devote that time in overtime, which I call
Exactly.
blood money, dude,
Blood money.
you know, brother, you're working 30, an additional 40 hours a week to make the same amount of money you would from those machines, which only take a couple of hours to fill. Correct?
Correct. Yep. It's passive income right there.
Exactly, passive income. So, what led you to transition to merchant services, which is credit card machines?
Yeah. So in a lot of and I'm kind of preaching to the choir, right? But so I was all about the ATM machines and trying to scope out places to put ATM machines, talking with people, and generally like the best place for an ATM machine is a place that doesn't accept credit cards, right? Because that indicates that they're cash only. They need cash.
Yes.
The
Mhm.
problem with a lot of cash only places is that they already have ATM machines. So the way that I looked at it was, a lot of these places I went into, sure, they were cash only and they happened to not have an ATM machine, and I happened to be able to put one in there. But then I thought to myself, okay, so if I go into these other businesses um, that that are cash only, have an ATM machine, is there a play to be made to pitch them merchant services and talk about the benefits of accepting credit cards and how it's easier and this, that, or the other? So there was a big synergy between ATMs and cash and merchant services, and that is kind of why I went down the merchant services road as well.
No, I love that. I love that. So, talk about like the merchant services road now. Were you able to scale that at least to, a good number where you were like, dude, this is something that I could go ahead and actually grow? Or did you just do it did you keep it as a side hustle as well?
Yes, yep, I kept that 100% as a side hustle. Again, putting in that part-time effort, getting part-time results, which again, fine with. I was still working full-time in policing, got the young family, so on and so forth. So that was very much a part-time, passive kind of side hustle venture.
I love that. And then that's what allowed you to actually go ahead and have financial freedom in order to leave law enforcement. From the time that you started with ATMs and merchant services, how long did it take to build that financial freedom for yourself?
I would say probably 4 years, three or 4 years. Yeah, and again, that's doing it part time, right? That's doing it. I mean, the income was passive, but to be frank, my sales was very passive. It was almost like if somebody came to me and was like, "Hey, such and such said that you do ATM machines, like I know a guy," then I'd be like, "Okay, yeah, hook me up with him." But I was very like passive on sales. Like looking back, and this is something that I'm changing with like my AI automation agency. Looking back is like I knew the ATM industry and I knew merchant services and I knew the problems that I was solving. What I didn't know was marketing, right?
Hmm.
And really that is I think is what separates that is where scaling starts coming into play.
No, absolutely, man. I mean, it's one of the three needle movers I always talk about. It is your client acquisition, which has to do everything with marketing, your
Mhm.
sales, and then your fulfillment, right?
Yep.
So, no, you're on point with that, man. If you guys don't have great marketing, and it doesn't matter what industry you guys are in, then you guys are going to struggle with getting customers. So, exposure is everything, guys. Even if you're doing it old school, you're door knocking, you're cold calling, or you're running ads on social media. So, Nick, once you left law enforcement, what was your next move?
So, I left law enforcement for actually a part time, not a part time, I'm sorry, a temporary contractor role, a full time temporary contractor role doing basic IT support stuff. Now, it was for a huge company, a Fortune 100 company. Um, I took about a $30,000 pay cut, leaving law enforcement and making this jump. And as I mentioned in our emails back and forth, I did this with a 2-year old at home and a pregnant wife. So for all of you that are looking for the right time to make a move, like, there is no right time, believe me. So so that was kind of a pretty scary jump, leaving that stability. And not only did I take a pay cut, but it was a temporary role, right? It wasn't even guaranteed that it was going to turn into a full-time thing. Um, but I went into it betting on myself and, went full throttle into that role, which ended up flourishing into a full-time career.
I love that. I love that. And then, since you left law enforcement, what year did you leave law enforcement full time?
Full-time 2017, November 2017.
So in 2017, you left there, and then you transitioned into entrepreneurship, and you found different other ventures to go ahead and actually help you grow not only your financial freedom, but then also bring back the quality of life, right? Because I think at the end of the day, that's what you were aiming towards. You were aiming towards buying back your time, spending time with your family, not having to go ahead and work a ton of overtime, right?
Right.
So no, it
Exactly.
makes perfect sense. So when did you start getting into AI automation?
Very recently. So I started getting into it. I'd say a year ago, but really started digging into it probably 6 months ago, right? Like a year ago, like AI isn't a new thing, right? But over the past year, it's been all the rage. AI is everything. Everybody has AI in their company names and so on and so forth. Um, so 6 months ago, I actually started like a regular digital agency doing things like SEO and um, lead gen and things of that nature. But I, me, like everybody else, is like, okay, I need to pivot and or at least add on some type of component for AI for AI, right? And then once I started looking at AI and where I could apply AI, a lot of what can be done with AI, it really goes well with automation. Kind of like ATM machines and merchant services, like AI and
Mhm.
automation almost go hand in hand. So started looking at the automation piece, and I think my first product or customer was my wife because she also owns her own business. It's a travel agency, so I actually went and built out this big thing for her that I can definitely get into later if you want me to give some examples of some of the work that I've done. But yeah, I've only been doing it for like 6 months so far. Have a handful of clients, and I think one of the differentiators for me between the ATM industry and the merchant services industry versus the AI automation industry is I really enjoy doing the latter, right? Like I didn't get into ATMs and merchant services because I was passionate about ATM machines, right? Um, and I'm the type of person like some people can do that. Some people don't care, where they work or what they're doing as long as they're getting paid well. And that's not me. I need a bigger purpose. I need more. I'm kind of like emotionally high maintenance when it comes to careers and like how I'm spending my time. So the AI automation stuff is I'm actually seeing how I'm helping businesses be better, right? And they're mostly small businesses right now. And like I said, my wife was the first thing. I get that tangible benefit of being like, wow, like before this is how they were doing this process, and now because of me and the work that I've done, now they can operate better, right? And that is more fulfilling to me. So that's why I'm really gravitating more towards that now.
I love that. I love that. Do you think also you're also pivoting to AI automation because you could do it from the laptop? You could do
Mhm.
it literally from anywhere in the world if you chose to. And that was something that I thought of. It was just like, okay, I have the grit, I have the discipline, I'm proactive. All right, let me start off my first smaller venture with ATMs, but then later on, once I grew it, just like you, I was like, dude, I need to get into the digital space.
Hmm.
So that's when I started educating myself into digital marketing and investing into mentors and courses and programs and conferences, and just grew my knowledge and then also my network as well. So, what would you say is an ideal client that you currently serve right now with AI automation?
An ideal client, I would say, is a client that has a high intake of of um, let's say high touch with like customers, right? Like a client that gets a ton of phone calls, right, is immediately a client for a good client, right? A client like a let's say like a hair salon or a barber shop, right, where there's a handful of barbers or hair salon people, but there's no receptionist, right? But they still have a phone, and that phone still rings. Every single time the phone rings, somebody has to stop what they're doing and walk over and answer the phone, and they're sidetracked and they're booking an appointment or whatever. And then they come back to their customer and say, "Sorry about that. Like, I had to answer the phone." Um, so really, like brick and mortar, classic. People call them boomer businesses sometimes, like the landscaping agencies, the tree service agencies, barber shops, even liquor stores, basic retail where there's like it's kind of a mom and pop shop, because those are also the people that have little experience with AI. Like they've heard about it, they know it's big, they have no idea where to start. Um, and that's those are the kind of ideal clients, like the less digital clients and the much more traditional brick and mortar clients.
Smart, smart. I mean, that's a good way to go ahead and actually hyper focus on a specific avatar. Same thing with me, man. I was trying to attract, or I'm still currently attracting clients that have very similar backgrounds as me. I'm 37, about to be 38 in January. At the end of the day, I came into the digital marketing world a little bit over 5 years ago now, and I, me myself, I've always had a dream of being a highly successful entrepreneur, even when I was in law enforcement. And I think people overcomplicate business. They overcomplicate business, brother.
Yeah,
And business is not meant to be complicated, especially when you start seeing these bigger companies. They scale because of simplicity, right? So the fact that you went to target boomers, especially when they're not educated on AI and technology, I mean, that's the way to do it, dude. So, how are you obtaining your clients right now? Is it solely through referrals? Are you using social media? I took a deep dive on your Instagram. I know that you're also helping first responders start their own side hustles as well, which is great, dude, because I think that, we need more leaders in the online space to
right,
give direction to people that just don't know, right?
right.
So, what would you say? How are you getting your clients right now?
So I'm definitely getting my clients right now through social media and referrals. Heavy on things like Facebook, my Facebook business page. I've run ads here and there. The problem with running ads in this space is that it's very much saturated and it's very hard to differentiate, because now everybody online is all of a sudden an AI expert and an automation
Yeah.
expert, and their ads are all over the place. Um, so, and the way that I get clients kind of aligns with that whole kind of boomer business, classic brick and mortar business. Like that can be done by walking through the door, right, of the store, and like right then and there you've now differentiated yourself from every single other AI expert that they've seen, because they're like, wow, this is an actual physical person that is now saying that they're an AI automation expert. It's like, how often does that happen? It doesn't happen very often. It's usually ads that people see. So by and large, it's been word of mouth, and actually some pre-existing clients that I had when I was doing my kind of regular agency stuff like SEO and things of that nature. I quickly found out that that was not for me, at least not without automation. Very dry, very time consuming. Um, but like one of those people that were my client, an SEO client, signed up to be my client for AI automation, right? And I had a phone call with them a half an hour before we got on today.
I love that.
So that's how pretty much social media and actually physically walking into places.
Yeah, so you're taking it back old school, dude. What there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you get able to get a handful of clients paying you recurring revenue. I mean, it's all good, right?
That's
So,
exactly it.
what is your future plans right now as far as like where you're currently at? Where do you see yourself in the next year or so? Where do you want to take your side hustles, and do you ultimately want to just grow them to be this massive company, or what's your vision?
Yeah, so vision is something that I struggle with vision. Now, not just in general, because like at my full-time job, right? I'm a people leader. Um, I have a great reputation in the company. People know the name, right? And it's a huge company. Um, I'm very solid on vision in like where I want to be 5 years in my full-time career, right? In life in general, um, I really have no bones about. Some people don't like to talk about like, oh, I don't want to say that like I just want to have like tons and tons and tons of money and like never have to worry about money again, but I do, and like that's my vision. Like, and I have no problem saying it. Like, my vision in 5 years is to have so much money that I can do whatever I choose to do, whether that's continuing AI automation full time, whether that's just hanging out for a couple of years. I might even still work full time for my 9 to 5 job. Frankly, because I'm one of these fortunate people that really loves, like, I love what I do at my full time job. And it's really like paradoxal because a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of side hustlers do that because they don't like their full time job and they're trying to get out of like the rat race. I I'm excited to go into work every day. So it's a really like unique situation. That's why the question of like where do you see yourself in 5 years in terms of vision, um, I don't have a definite need for, because I think like the default answer, or an answer that you probably get common, is like in 5 years I see myself out of my full time job, not working for anybody, running my own business and being financially free. And that's like, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm kind of like an outlier where like I actually enjoy what I do full time. So it's kind of tricky to navigate that.
No, absolutely, man, and I agree. You know, so what type of advice would you tell for, let's say, even military veterans? You know, because you were in the military. What would you tell somebody who's currently in law enforcement and they're looking for a vehicle just like you that's able to make them financially free? What would you say in 2025 is the vehicle to use?
In 2025, I would say that the best skill that you can learn, right, is, and it's not a vehicle in the sense that it's a business model, which I'll recommend a business model, but the biggest skill is marketing, right? Because it doesn't just apply to business, it applies to yourself. If you understand how to market a product, and if you start considering yourself a product, which like I don't necessarily do that, but you get what I'm saying, like you can market yourself in such a way that will get you where you want to go. So like learning marketing is like number one, whether like taking AI out of the mix, taking whatever out of the mix, like you can apply the concepts of marketing to anything, any product, any industry, yourself, trying to get a job, and so on. So first and foremost, like learn marketing, and the vehicle, um, for me anyway, and I think it really meshes well with law enforcement, is something that is passive income. All about the passive income, right? Um, and nothing wrong with starting an ATM machine business. Nothing wrong with getting into merchant services. Those are great vehicles for passive income, right? I would say anything you can do to learn about AI, do it, because in 5 years from now, there's going. I think Mark Cuban said this. In 5 years from now, there's going to be businesses that are great at AI, and then there's the businesses that aren't. Right. That is going to be like the differentiator. So if you start building, you don't have to go and build an automation um, company like I did, right? There was a lot of learning that went into that way before I was like, I'm going to start an automation agency. Um, and AI is more than Chat GPT. So learning things like prompting, in ChatGPT, how to correctly prompt ChatGPT, learning about all the different ways you can automate stuff. Um, and so AI is the vehicle, like that is the vehicle to financial freedom. And you can apply AI. It's similar to marketing. You can apply AI at any industry, any business model, any industry. Like AI can be applied to it, but you have to be willing to learn about it first.
And how did you learn about it, brother?
I'm a lifelong self-taught learner, man. So like my bread and butter right now in full-time career mode is cybersecurity. Love cybersecurity, offensive cybersecurity, kind of good guy hacker. Like that is my bread. I love it so much I do it when I'm not working. Um, sorry, what was the question again? See, I got excited,
Y-
so I forgot what the
y-
question was.
No worries, no worries. How did you learn about AI?
That's right. So, similar to cybersecurity, right? When you're passionate about something, it makes learning about it enjoyable. And once I learned what AI could do and what it was capable of, I then became passionate about it. And the more I read about it, the more passionate I became about it because I see the potential. So in short, all of my learning's been self-taught. Like people underestimate big time things like YouTube, things like Google. It's like actually sitting down and reading a blog post or picking up a book. There's plenty of books on AI, right? I think part of the problem is, and it's just like us humans in general, is like we want immediate results, right? We're impatient. We want immediate results. I don't want to sit down and read the books and watch the videos and take the courses and everything else. Like I just want to build my agency and to just like grip it and rip it. And unfortunately, it's just like that's not how it works. You have to put the work in.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. It's not easy, but you do have to self-educate yourself and you have to go ahead and take imperfect action.
Mhm.
So, Nick, what would you tell to everybody right now that's a first responder, military veteran, if they wanted to go ahead and contact you, where can they actually go ahead and reach out to you, brother?
Yeah, so I think the best way to reach out to me right now is on my Instagram, which is exit command. Um, I named it that way so that way first responders would recognize it. Like, I hope you know what an exit command is if you're a first responder and you're listening. But yeah, it's just at exit command, EXIT command.
Awesome. And then are you offering any type of services or mentorship or, anything for first responders or military veterans to go ahead and actually learn from you, brother?
Yeah, so I have a couple different things. My Instagram channel is really kind of like the main platform that I give advice on. I do little mini videos on like skill translation, how to translate your law enforcement skills into the corporate world. Another thing I do is I have a school community, so skool.com. And that's kind of like the paid community, right? It's $17 a month, but it's a paid community where we do things like weekly lives that I'm on. It's more of a personalized approach if you feel like you want that more one-on-one mentorship. So I offer that as well. So hit me up on the Instagram, and I have links for my school community on my page. So that's the best way to get a hold of me. But yeah, like my goal with Exit Command is to work with police officers who have already made the decision that like they want to leave, but they just don't know what to do or how to do it, right? It's not a platform to like convince people to leave law enforcement or to like I'm not here to convince whether you stay or go is like it doesn't affect me. Um but like when I was looking to leave law enforcement, there weren't resources like that around, right? And I went back and forth for years and I'm like, now I've made this resource to try to fast track that process for people.
No, absolutely, man. And I think it's great. I think it's, having content for first responders, military folks that are looking for an opportunity, just like what you did, dude, is just find a a smaller vehicle that could be a side hustle, doesn't take 40 hours a week, doesn't take a massive
Exactly.
amount of your time. You're able to do it part time. And then you're able to ultimately transition to what you want to do. And I
Right.
think that is the key takeaway here, guys, is that Nick's story is phenomenal because he was an Army Ranger, a military veteran, first responder, law enforcement, family guy, and ultimately he wanted more out of life. He wanted to go ahead and create a vehicle that can make him financially free and then go find something that fulfills him. So, guys, make sure to check out our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. We have a brand new YouTube channel, The Level Up with Paul Alex, guys. And we're currently ranked top 3 in business on Apple Podcasts. If you guys like this interview, make sure to share it with people that you care about, that you love. If you know a first responder, make sure they listen to this and contact Nick. Nick is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to ATMs, merchant services, and AI automation. At the end of the day, your network is your net worth. That's it, guys. My name is Paul Alex. This is The Level Up, and we'll catch you on the next one.